The other week, I wrote a post about account-based selling done right, and I had a few people reach out to me just to go into a little bit more detail about what are some of the tools that they could be using, and then how to think about the content assets that they could create for the target accounts as part of their ABM or ABS campaigns. So I'm recording this video to go through that and really share what the tools look like, how they work, and how you could apply this into your own account-based marketing or account-based selling strategy. I think I'll say account-based selling from now on. I think as we go into the end of 2025 and into 2026, more companies are going to start leveraging an account-based selling approach, even if their LTV isn't as high as previously would have been needed. And I think that's because the ways and tools that you can use today to create this account-based selling experience for the prospects have reduced. You've got tools like Gamma, which has just opened up their API, so you can connect your Gamma presentations with a clay table via Make or Zapier, which essentially means you can bring any of your data from a clay table or whichever data enrichment platform you're using, which uses AI to research some data, into a personalized Gamma presentation. I'll walk through that at the end. But for those who haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link to the post below. It's quite a detailed post where I cover when you should use account-based selling, the formula, which I'm going to share in a second, creating an account plan, and then thinking about the assets and then the benefits, challenges, blah, 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 all that stuff for the SEO gods. But I'm going to go through my formula first of all, which I've developed working with a few clients. So the first thing to think about is, what does the account-based selling formula mean? So I've broken it down into 3 stages. The first stage is you need to think about the account insight. So what's happening within the accounts that you're selling to, or what has changed? What are they facing? What could change? Then what are the persona challenges? So within the account, there's multiple personas that you'll likely be targeting. So if you're targeting the HR organization, what's the HR BP feeling versus the head of talent versus the learning and development manager? Again, I'm just making up a tool for this example, and I'm trying not to use sales examples as in selling to salespeople, because everybody does that. And then how does that tie in with the value proposition? So how does your value proposition for your solution tie into the persona challenges into an account that has a particular insight or challenge as well? Once you map that out, then you need to build out your target account plan. Your target account plan is really, if I scroll down to this here, really helps you think about the key decision making and the process inside that one org, that individual org, the key stakeholders, and then the insights, the challenges and value proposition. So that first level, and then thinking about what is the sequence of interaction. So what emails, what meetings, what content will we build? How will we get that content? How are we going to distribute that content in front of them? And then what technology do we need to use? So I then like to go to the next stage, which is, okay, well, what are we going to say? Like, how are we going to cut through the noise? And what are we going to say that really puts across our value proposition in a differentiated way, which is the account asset? Now, the account asset doesn't necessarily have to be a content asset. It could be that you're hosting a mini event or a small event, a seminar. It could be that if it's a really large account, is that you might go and do a workshop within an organization. So don't think that account asset has to be just a piece of content like a blog or a report or a white paper. It also can be ads as well. And I think what we need to do is take a step back and think, how can we influence or how can we get our brand in front of this account as much as possible without it feeling a bit too much or too creepy, too stalkery? So in the blog post, I also shared what these different account assets can be and the channels in account-based selling as well. So I won't go into, read this in your own time. What I wanted to do is kind of click through and show you some of the tools. So the first tool is the Userled. And Userled allows you to build personalized ads and microsites. So if you can go on their website, and one of the things it's worth testing out is the microsite generator. So I clicked here, and this is going to help me build an account-based landing page with just my company. This Subly, it's a friend's company, it's not my company. And then imagining that they're selling to Zoom Info. That's all I gave it. So this is without having to do any research myself. The AI, I can imagine behind the scenes, is going off to look at what Subbly says on their website, what their solutions are, how they help people. Then it's looking at ZoomInfo and thinking, how can Subbly help ZoomInfo? So if I just show you this tab here, we've got a microsite which is saying transforming media accessibility for ZoomInfo. So Subbly helps with media accessibility, and ZoomInfo need to think about media accessibility not only internally because of the amount of people that they have, but also for the content that they're sharing publicly as well. So let ZoomInfo's team focus on growth as we handle compliance for you. It's also ensures that your content aligns with WCAG standards. Again, I don't know what this stuff is. If I was working for Subbly, I would know what it is. But you can see that this is like a good V1. It's taken the value proposition and then it's created a microsite for ZoomInfo. I think this alone might not be enough. This would have been enough maybe a few years ago, but I don't think it's enough to cut through the noise of what's possible with Outbound now, and then also in 2026 as well. Another thing is Influ2. So this is another tool. Influ2 allow you to do contact level ads. Now, I became aware of Influ2, and I think it was them, because when I was working with Sales Impact Academy as a SDR coach, I was getting ads from User Gems, and User Gems were targeting me, and they were mentioning Sales Impact Academy in the ad that I could see. And I always remember that because I thought that's pretty smart. I've not seen it before. This is about 4 years ago. And it turns out that's what Influ2 enables you to do. So you can run contact level ads. On LinkedIn is where I've seen it. So here are just some examples. I went and looked for the ads that User Gems are running now. So User Gems are, I'm not sure if they use Influ2, to be totally honest. I think they do. They could be using a different provider. But you can see that each ad is targeted to the individual company. So, hey Droplet, hey Checker, hey Alterity. So it's targeted to individuals that work at that company. I'm not sure. I think it might be too much if this ad said, hi Mark. I think that's a little bit too spooky. If you're reaching out to marketing and sales people, maybe you could get away with that. Any other function, I probably wouldn't go down to that level, but at least you can target, at least you can show that ad. So let's imagine that I am working at Droplet and I've received an email from Droplet, one of their BDRs or SDRs. I've also received a LinkedIn connection request. Maybe I've had a missed call. I'm also seeing ads. I'm now starting to get aware of Droplet. It's not convincing me that I need to buy, but it is increasing the likelihood that when I do see another message from them, I might likely reply. I could tell them to stop, but anyway, you see the point. To solve the problem of the formula account insights times persona challenges times value propositions, I want to show you two options. One of the options is almost like a done for you version. The other option is you can do it yourself. So the first option is RevvedUp, and their headline says it all: engage every prospect with an AI-driven ABM campaigns. So what does that look like? Well, behind the scenes within RevvedUp, they essentially, this is just one screen of many that the team at RevvedUp shared with me. They put together the individual and they use AI to do research on the individual, as well as their buyer priorities, as well as the company details, and then how that relates to the value proposition, to your talking points, your benefits, your solutions. What that allows you to do is to create multiple messages. So each message is truly unique that goes out. And we're not saying like, hey, I saw you went to this university, or I see that you follow this person on LinkedIn, because I personally have never believed that sort of personalization works. But if we look here, so to engage with Jeanette, our outreach must mirror her preferences for concise, outcome-focused communications. So that's the tone of the messaging. That's really good information for your reps to know when they're cold calling, when they're messaging, connecting on LinkedIn, etc. So open with hard metrics, so hours saved, replies, and conversation rates to directly align with her ROI-driven style. Next, we'll highlight our capability to support Butterfly MX strategic expansion. So again, it goes into more detail. We've got the disc profile of the individual as well, and then buyer priorities. I really like to focus on the buyer priorities because that goes back to the persona challenges. You could swap challenges with priorities, or the challenges worried that they're not going to achieve the priorities that they have set. So we've got, she's responsible for defining and executing sales strategies. She leads and mentors the sales team, driving accountability. She owns pipeline creation. She builds and maintains relationships with developers, property managers, and other stakeholders to secure long-term contracts. All of this is gold. All of this information would help you write a better email. And if you've tried using AI to write emails in the past and you just went to ChatGPT and said, write me a sales email, you probably saw that it was shit. The results of that email were terrible. With the same prompt and this screenshot, the AI now is much better. But what makes the outcome more likely to be a good email is that you're giving it this context. Because without context, AI just doesn't really work. It's just guessing. So that's RevvedUp. That's more of your full comprehensive suite to build out those messaging. RevvedUp can also build the microsites as well. If you're looking to do this yourself, or you're just trialing account-based sales, you're just getting started with it, then I 100% recommend that you check out Twain. Twain does all of this very well as well, and it uses AI behind the scenes too. They just don't lead with AI. Which I respect actually. But what happens in the back end of Twain is you put in the persona, you put in your company information, and you talk about the pain points for this persona, the cost of inaction, very powerful when it comes to sales, solutions, objections, competitive advantage, and social proof. So you are feeding the engine with this information. And again, this goes back to my formula here of account insights, persona challenges. This is just the persona challenge that this is the context that we have the most influence about, as well as the value proposition. The account insights, AI can do all this. So we don't really touch account insights, but we do need to feed Twain with persona challenges and value propositions. So then what Twain will do is it will take into account the information that I've shared here for the persona. And I'm just going to update a sequence here. The idea or perhaps angle of my outreach is to offer a free audit. Not saying that's what you should be doing in your account-based selling, but just for this example, that's what the free audit will be. And what it's doing now, it's generating a LinkedIn message, an email, and an email. This allows me to create 100% personalized and relevant messaging that I could send out, and I could send it out to all of these prospects that are in the leads list. This is an old list that I just went back to for this video. But if I look at Tony, and now how do I get that information about his challenges, the tasks, the focus? Well, Twain does that for me. So challenges. Faces okay, I think it's just updated now because I've updated my my preferences. So insights here. They became a certified B Corporation in September. That's a really important nugget of information for me to know with my account-based selling. They employ a strategic research-driven approach to video marketing. So if they're strategic and research-driven, maybe my messaging should reflect that too. Tony is dedicated to social impact, serving as board chair for Rally Boots on the ground and fighting gun violence for 15 years. Advocacy includes being an LGBTQ plus ally. So again, this is all great insights that I would want to lead with when I'm building out my assets. Now, you've got to be careful. You don't want to lean too much into this. You don't want to, for example, this is a silly example, you probably don't want to put the rainbow flag on the landing page that you're building because it's just too risky to do something like that. But it's just good nuggets of information to have in the back of your mind as you're speaking to the prospect later in the funnel. So challenges, he faces difficulty of balancing creative aspirations with client demands, finding the right approach to satisfy both creative direction and client requirements, additional maintaining and consistent creative vision. So tasks, he's responsible for overseeing the entire video production process. So I think, look, you get the point. Here's the focus. and that is about the company. So now Twain is creating a email for me or a message for me, and this isn't polished, it's not the final version, but if I just hover over this, it's now showing me where it's putting the information in. So it's bringing the name of the company in here because it's who that company is. So find practical ways to get more replies and book more calls. It's because it's taking my persona insights, which is agency owners often face challenges in getting replies, booking meetings, and closing deals. Let's see what else it's got here. So you might be looking for simple ideas that don't disrupt your process or stretch your team. This is coming from my persona context that I gave it. There may also be concerns about the time required to implement new processes. So you can see how it's taking the combination of my persona challenges, it's using the account insight and my value proposition. So my target account plan here is to use Twain and then reach out. It could be that I create a microsite. It could be that I run paid ads. It could be that I build a landing page for them. Just quickly on two things. So we've got Trumpet is started off as a digital sales room, but it can be used for account-based selling. Here's an example of a trying to sell to Figma, I think. So streamlining your Figma sales back. Yeah. So this is Trumpet trying to sell to the Figma team. And they've put together, it's got the logo here, centralized buyer journeys. Okay, 90 seconds. So this is generic. Gong is very different to Figma. Okay, so this is where a lot of companies will produce account-based selling assets like this, and they think changing the colors, putting the logo of the company on there is what they need to do. And in reality, you need to do what I'm suggesting in the formula of the messaging has to be based on the account insights, the persona challenges, the value propositions. And that's how your messaging should be reflected in your account assets. Just putting the logo, just putting the name of the company is not going to cut it anymore. If it still is, you're lucky, essentially. Lastly, Gamma has just opened the doors for you to do this at scale. So Gamma launched their API, I think it was last week. So essentially what that means is you can build anything. You can essentially build the template of what you want your Gamma document to look like, your presentation almost. Then you would create almost the placeholder variables. Imagine this exactly like you are creating a newsletter email or a simple cold email where you're merging in the company name, you're merging in their first name, you're merging in whatever you might be merging in. So what you would do here is you would use a tool like Clay or Freckle to do some enrichment, do some research. So you might say, look at this company, research the industry that they're in and recent company news, and list out one or two challenges that can be solved with my solution. My solution is blah, 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 blah. You would then get that into a cell within Clay or Freckle, and then you would push that information via Make or Zapier, which I think is how, Zapier. It's got N8N as well to automate the workflows. So you would then push that into a template within Gamma, and the action within the workflow tool would be create, when a row is updated in Clay, create a Gamma presentation, pulling through the data from the Clay row. So in that row, you probably want to have the brand colors, the brand logo, which you can do. Again, I'm saying Clay, it could be Freckle, could be other tools that do data enrichment. And then what that does is it then starts to build out the table, the Gamma presentation, based on the colors, the font, and the information that you've done that research for. So, and very unstructured. My prep for this video was just to open these tabs and walk through them. But I think if we just go back to this point here of the account-based selling framework, account-based selling is more important. It's only going to work if you follow this formula of account insights times persona challenges times value propositions. Put together a strategic target account plan, and then make sure you're building assets that go beyond just the logos, go beyond just the colors, and really answer the problems that that specific individual or the account is thinking and asking themselves right now. If you need help with account-based selling, I'm working on a lot of these campaigns at the moment with my clients, which I can't really share the exact details publicly. So book a call if you're interested. I won't be able to tell you them privately either, but I can give you a lot more detail and context. And if you need help, let me know. All right, cheers.